So any notion that he's anti-Semitic is nonsense. But strategically and in terms of tactics, the CIA, our military intelligence, were very effective in making an alliance with Iran. We will denuclearize their capability, making an alliance with Turkey, allowing Iraq to become what it should have been. And Biden, by the way, said it correctly years ago. It's a federalized country. That means we are taking apart, we, the United States of America, in its own power, is taking apart what the British and the French did in the Sykes-Picot Treaty of 1917, and that is we're taking apart Syria. Now you're going to have ISIS, which we have funded. That's part of Al-Qaeda. And by the way, Bibi Netanyahu has funded the Sunnis as well because he wants to get in there. And so every notion that Bibi is against terrorism is nonsense. Remember, he created Hamas. He's worked with the PLO. He's protected Arafat. And the Israelis have fought against Hezbollah, and now they make peace. So they have to come to peace. Now, the second part is, what countries have lost in all of this? Saudi Arabia, the creation of British intelligence, particularly Gertrude Bell and Lawrence of Arabia. And basically, this is Wahhabism, but it was never an effective country. Under the Soleimani Federation of Seven Sons, they have not been able to grow, develop.
Has Saudi Arabia figured out that large power blocks in the West plan on breaking their country up?
Well, they figured it out and they're frightened. And what they're doing is helping Israel and basically encouraging Israel to attack the PLO because Saudi Arabia has never cared about the Palestinians. Even when I worked on the West Bank and I went into the different Palestinian camps, the Saudis always used it as a pawn. So the hypocrisy of Saudi Arabia and the hypocrisy of setting up Al-Qaeda and Haqqani and funding all these right-wing extremist Sunni extremists is coming back to hurt Saudi Arabia. So we have effectively deflected entire Al-Qaeda, Haqqani networks against the Saudi Arabian machinery and royal house, which is really not an institution. And they will eventually devolve. They will be out of power because the eastern part of Saudi Arabia is run by Shiites, and there are now conflicts there, and Saudi Arabia understands it as
sure.
40%.
Couldn't we just see overnight a collapse of Riyadh one day, and the princes all in their big 777s running with all their loot to Paris?
Yes, they're all in Marbella. They have Swiss bank accounts. They're here in America. They're totally corrupt. They know it. We know it. The world knows it. But they're not a country. They were never a country. They were a centralized point of a very fundamentalist sect that didn't even really relate to the Quran, the Holy Quran, and they were called Wahhabis. And they claimed they were the patrons or the guardians of Mecca and Medina.
All right, well, I get breaking up Iraq because it was always in three parts before, but here's my problem.
Yes, sir.
You don't use Islamic State, a bunch of crazies to do it who are blowing up all the churches. That makes the West, just proves... It's like using the ring of Mordor. You cannot use the ring and have it turn into good.
I agree with you. Now, the issue of Christianity is something I brought up on your show 3 years ago, and I have asked the Coptics to prepare for this. I'd asked the Geneva Convention of Churches to be aware of this. No one stood up to defend the Christians in Syria or anywhere else in the Middle East, and I helped to write a book called Out of the Ashes, with the last Tom Clancy book, which has to do with the slaughter of the Christians. But that is not an issue of the ISIS. ISIS has been a product of the American, Israeli, and Sunni, Turkish, as well as Saudi Arabian involvement to create a caliphate where they can control some of Syria, break up Iraq, and then eventually they have to come to terms and peace with Jews and Christian minorities, which they're trying to do. I do not defend the caliphate, but basically what's happening is a total reorganization of the Middle East by America and the influence of this president and his vice president, Biden, who was accused by Robert Gates, the director of the CIA, as being stupid, General Stanley McChrystal as being stupid, and Petraeus. Yet this is the only man who predicted 10 to 20 years ago that we would have a breakup of Iraq. We were never going to build a nation in Iraq. We were never.
Sure, that's clearly been the plan, is getting it weak the whole time to do that.
I'm sorry?
I mean, clearly the plan has been get Iraq weak the whole time to do that. It's a clear program of balkanization.
Well, it was after the Bush, Cheney, and the neocons. We wanted to break it up because it had no viability as a centralized organization.
All right, sir, we got to go to break. I want to come back and shift gears over to Russia and briefly find out what you think about the whole shoot down of the plane and get your perspective on that. But briefly, what do you think of them refusing to enforce border laws and just opening the border up wide open? I think Obama could use this as a crisis to power grab.
No, I don't think so. I don't think Obama really needs to have a power grab. He's already been in an executive expansion without a power grab. Basically, I always believe that these children should be brought back to their home countries. The real culprit in this is Mexico. Mexico should never have allowed them a transit point, because if I want to go into Mexico and become a Mexican citizen, it's almost impossible for them.
No, I know. So why is Mexico doing that?
Because Mexico wants to put pressure on our borders for them to get more money for us to help them out financially.
No, that's it. They've been demanding a Marshall Plan, so they're holding us ransom.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's just all right there. Well, I can't argue with any of that.
Well, it's money.
Yeah.
Alex, it's always follow the money.
Cold, hard analysis with Steve Pieczenik, a real spy master, on the phone with us, whether you agree with him or disagree. It's definitely interesting to get his perspective. We'll be right back to get his take on MH17, where it's all going with Putin and more. Then your phone calls and another guest straight ahead on this Thursday live edition.
This hour brought to you by InfidelBodyArmor.com. When it hits the fan, don't be left without the body armor that will save your life. With prices starting at just $374.99 and ships free. Get yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Just won't quit.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Gain your independence all this month. Emergency Essentials will help you prepare with our biggest Mountain House sale ever. Now through July 31st, save up to 50% on every Mountain House can in stock. Mountain House food is the premier solution for your long-term storage. The freeze-dried lasagna is only $17.49 and the pasta primavera is only $18.49. Shop Emergency Essentials right now at BePrepared.com for the lowest prices in the country. The choice is clear. Be unprepared or BePrepared.com.
That's the sound of your door being kicked in by an intruder with a single kick. Criminals know that your wooden door frames are weak and your alarm system can't keep them out. That's the sound of the same door now protected by the Door Sentinel. Standard locks, deadbolts, and alarm systems can't prevent forced entry. Harden your door and door jamb with a Door Sentinel. Protect your home now at MySafeDoor.com. Go to MySafeDoor.com for a special limited time offer. The Door Sentinel, your home's first line of defense.
Hey, this is Steve Sanchez. Worried about the Wall Street casino? Yeah, me too. Wondering when the stock market is going to collapse? You probably want answers, but you know you can't trust the global elite. Well, my good friend Brett Kitchen, best-selling author, has created a DVD set called The Millionaire Black Box, and for a limited time, you get free access. Call 1-800-259-3131. Find out how the global elite invests without having to deal with the global elite themselves. 1-800-259-3131. 1-800-259-3131.
Hey folks, this is Larry Crisp for BabyBoomerBackupPlan.com. I'm sure you know, this economy sucks. We all realize that the American economy is tremendously unstable right now and will likely get much worse. There's monumental debt, government bailouts, stock and real estate bubbles that are primed to pop at any moment, which can flush away most or all of your retirement savings. This type of movement has enormous consequences. Virtually zero sectors of the economy are hiring and workforce participation is at record lows. Financial trouble is right here at our doorstep. But if you move right now and develop a backup plan immediately, this could be the most profitable time of your life. Proportionately, more millionaires were created during the Great Depression than at any time in our history. Get my free report at BabyBoomerBackupPlan.com or call 888-507-8789 for my free report. 888-507-8789 and prepare to profit as history repeats itself.
What if I say I will never surrender? Please don't forget this hour is brought to you by wonderful, very affordable, made in America, made in Texas, by veterans, Infidel Body Armor. Infidel Body Armor InfoWars.com, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure and check them out today. InfidelBodyArmor.com or 888-608-6605. 20% off or $20 off. Enter code ALEX at checkout and receive free shipping on orders over $100 and $20 off with the code ALEX at InfidelBodyArmor.com or 888-608-6605. Going back to Dr. Steve Pieczenik, thank you for giving us the perspective of what the establishment thinks they're doing with this, and I can agree with what you're saying because we can see it unfolding and see what the think tanks are saying, piecemeal, putting it together. But specifically with Russia and what's happening there, and George Soros and the rest of it over there, what do you think about what happened with MH17?
Well, I think MH, first you have to remember, Malaysia is what I call a pimp country. It is run by the Genting Group, which is huge investments in the United States. Again, it's money issue. They run the casinos in Miami, Pennsylvania, New York. They run the cruise ships, the Norwegian cruise ship, the Bimini line. They came out of the drug smuggling business. They're still a very, very nefarious country, which will do anything for money and will work with us or anybody else. So the issue of downplaying is not as significant to me as the issue of what it means in terms of the United States and Russia. Again, I hate to say this, but what Obama did on behalf of this administration was to create economic sanctions. Now, I agree with that because we don't need to go to war. Our country is tired of sending boys to Iraq and Afghanistan thanks to Bush and Cheney, who never went to war. But instead, we did something much more effective. We lowered the ruble. We forced an economic flood of money out of close to $100 billion of investment money out of Russia. We forced the indices of the market to go down. The Russians are hurting economically. They will hurt economically. And the reason we can do this is because the only product they can sell on the open market is $100 a barrel of oil. Now, having done that, what happens is Putin has been put up there by the CIA and other intelligence units. You got to understand, nothing happens in Russia or the world without our CIA and our intelligence community helping to put it there. And in the respect, we want Putin out. And what's happening is three divisions of his intelligence service. That's the FSB, which he was head of the KGB, and the SVR, which is their foreign intelligence, plus the GRU, their military intelligence, has been fighting over the fact that Putin has not been able to economically maintain a stability in Russia. And in turn, they're the ones who deal with the economic fallout because they're the ones who do anti-corruption work, but they are involved in corruption. And in turn, they're fighting among each other. And what you saw in the Ukraine was the GRU, FSB fighting among each other. It's very much like our military intelligence fights with the CIA, but much more lethal because the head of that is Putin. And Putin is hurting because we forced him to stretch out all the way into Ukraine. Remember, the Ukraine in and of itself has no basic value to us. In terms of strategic force structure, it really doesn't impact on Europe.
So it's a proxy war like Afghanistan.
Well, it's even less than that because Afghanistan was totally desolate. Here we have a $15 billion liability. In other words, the minute we pick up the Ukraine, despite what everybody says, we have a dead asset that is not worth $15 billion. But we have.
Well, you can cut off Russian gas and then make them buy it from the U.S.
Well, we can do that, but that would be Cosabella. But we don't need.
Tell you what, Doc, do 5 more minutes with us, and I promise callers, I'll get to you as well. You'll just be on with Professor Hamamoto. Darlene, Terrence, James, Dennis, Eddie, I'm going to get to all of you. So stay with us. Dr. Pieczenik, stay there, back in 60 seconds. We'll let him put bookends on this. StevePieczenik.com is his website. Stay with us.
Genesis Communications Radio Network.
Alex Jones here for Infowars.com. In the month of July, we have got giant specials on everything at MadeIn1776.com. The already discounted Made in 1776 t-shirts are only $17.76. We have the new belt buckles that in only 2 weeks of sale are very close to selling out. There's only 500 of each. We're talking about Made in America belt buckles in nickeled brass. This is more than a summer blowout special. This is a new declaration of independence. But to expand the InfoWar, we're offering the equivalent of more than 5 months free right now when you get a membership at prisonplanet.tv for a limited time, only $39.95 a year. That's more than 5 months free off the regular price. Not just this July 4th weekend, but the entire month of July at madein1776.com. Molon Labe, you can take my gun from my cold, dead hands.